Welcome to Spam Filter for Your Brain, bite-sized ponderings on how our thoughts influence our behaviour and our lives, and because we're all connected, how our thoughts impact the world. I'm here to help people reconnect with their bodies and declutter their brains. And I don't believe that we should just magically know how our emotions and our thoughts impact our lives if no one ever teaches us. So let's learn this stuff together. I think most of us, probably since the beginning of the pandemic, feel a bit burnt out by the idea of goals. When I first started self-care school and when I first started coaching, I think the idea of goals, maybe up until now, just like go and build your dream, people, felt like something that we were all trying to strive for. And I think there's a lot of people who are really tired. And I wanted to sort of look at the opposite of what getting your goal might be this week, rather than, if I'm like, hey, let's make these big life plans. Most of the people that I know would probably be like, oh, I would rather have a sit down. And actually, both of those things can be useful little maps as to what we're looking for and what we're hoping to feel. Normally, the whole idea of why we have a goal, a big one or a little one, is because we're hoping to feel something. And when we can actually identify what we think that we would feel if we got that thing, then we can work out how we can get more of that emotion in our life in the first place. And it's not always as simple as that. So always probably useful if I talk you through an actual example rather than random tangibles. So if I go for the smallest and inconsequential goal in many ways. Let's say I keep being targeted advertised some dungarees that I really like. I don't need any dungarees, but they're really nice. And I think that if I got those dungarees, I would feel probably quite cool. I'd have some clothes that fit me, which give me a sense of ease, and actually that sense of ease in my own body and the idea of feeling a bit cool out there in the world is the emotion that would give me, is that I would feel confident. And so rather than thinking, shall I get some dungarees? It's such a weird old goal to go for, but let's make it, accessible rather than I want to be an astronaut. If I'm thinking, maybe I could get those dungarees and I can feel confident. If it's confident that I want to feel, where else in my life do I feel confident already that I can kind of look at and notice what I'm thinking, because it's our thoughts that cause those feelings, and amplify that. Now, on a bad day, most of us would probably go, there's no areas of my life I feel confident. Me on a bad day, I could absolutely bring the house down with how unconfident I am. And it's not true. There's loads of things. Even on my worst day, there are loads of things that I'm super confident about. I'm very confident I can make a cup of tea. I am very confident that if I see a big wave crashing into a wall, that I'm probably going to make some noise of glee. I am very confident that if my toe, if I've got a pebble in my socks, I absolutely want to get it out immediately. I am very confident that the number of emails that are sat in my inbox right now makes me uncomfortable. Having a think about some of the things that I am super confident at, I can kind of go, okay, so let's look at the pebble in my shoe analogy. The pebble in my shoe analogy is like the confidence that I'm going to get that, like my thought that takes me to confidence is this has to change immediately. This is not continuing. The thought that kind of takes me to the sense of I'm going to giggle at seeing a big natural explosion of water is probably like, I'm delighted by this. I'm delighted by life. I'm someone who looks at the world and finds joy in enormity and in microscopic. When I When I think about me having a cup of tea, I'm like, I want it, I'm going to get it. All of these thoughts are super useful. And, it could be that I apply some of these to, I wanted, I get it, I'm going to do that for the dungarees. But the truth is, it isn't actually a bit of fabric that has probably been made in some questionable factory across the other side of the world that's going to give me that sense of confidence. It's thinking that it's the I'm going to feel okay in my body. It's the I am able to hold myself with that joy and glee that I see in the external environment. It is knowing that it's the confidence that I want. The more things I think that are along the lines of I delight in nature, I delight in my body, I delight in the things that are around me. If it's something, this has to change immediately. If it's something that I want, I'm going to get it. Thinking these kind of thoughts, rehearsing them to myself, almost like I'm rehearsing lines for a play, are going to make those thoughts more accessible to me, and that's going to bring more confidence into my life. And when I've got more confidence in my life, I can go, do I actually want or need these dungarees? Like, want, need are interesting different angles on it in a similar direction, but they're not the same thing. I absolutely don't need them. And do I want them? And what I really want is the confidence. And I can create that without participating in some pretty grim fast fashion choices on the internet. And that's not to disparage, everyone has choices. And this is one that I'm choosing to make in this moment. And I absolutely don't always make this choice. And I don't want you to be coming on the podcast sounding like I'm some kind of anti-fast fashion saint, because, we've all made some questionable choices in our time. I absolutely have, primarily because it's quite hard to find clothes for fat women in high street shops. But looking at this idea of confidence being something that is a choice, not something that purchasing something else would give me, I can expand that to all areas of my life. And I always try and check in with where am I hoping that the external thing is going to generate an emotion in my body, because it doesn't have capacity to. An emotion in my body are chemical sensations which are caused by the thoughts, the electricity going off in my brain, and I can train that. That is what I teach at self-care school. And, I hope even on the podcast you get a little idea of the ways that we can learn how to train our brains to give us more of the sensations that we want in our own physical magic bodysuit. When we work out what the actual emotion that we want is, we can work out whether that's something that we want to work towards by training our brains, or if it's something that you want to actually maybe put some extra thought work and some time into mulling over why that's an emotion that you're seeking, where you think it's lacking, those kind of good journaling questions. Most of us are prone to thinking, I want to feel more of that, and so I'm going to have to do more things. But it's not the things that give us the emotion. If we put this into a work context, for example, we might feel like what we want to feel is more ease, and the way to do that is to do 5 more hours work, and then we'll be able to feel relaxed. But actually relax and those sensations of ease are caused by our thoughts. And so if we were to be able to be rehearsing thoughts that enabled us to feel more relaxed and feel more calm in our bodies, chances are we'd actually get through the work a lot quicker and not be feeling such a deficit of that emotion in the first place. We can't act our way to our emotions, but we can strategize the things that we want more of, and we can rehearse the thoughts that are going to get us to a place that we want. Acting your way into things or acting your way out of things to try and generate an emotion in your body only leads to burnout. We all have way too many things that we are holding right now, and I urge you to just notice where you're trying to do more things so you can feel different things. If there are thoughts that can take you there that are in your environment at the moment, just spending 5 minutes with a notebook trying to note some of those down and rehearsing them is going to take you a lot further than grinding yourself into the ground. This has been Spam Filter for Your Brain's little weekly lesson. what would be super lovely for me, if you have the time, and if you have not done so already, is to go on to Apple Podcasts, which is, I'm aware there's lots of platforms, but Apple's a really big one that reviews make a difference. And if you are able to leave me a lovely 5-star review, I'm aware that this has been very directive. What it means is that other people are going to be able to get the podcast, and all of the time that I put into producing this and trying to make sure that the transcripts are accessible and everything is here so that you can get free information of lovely little nuggets in your ears every week is heard by more people. If you can leave a review, more people are going to hear it, and that would really hugely help me out. So I try and do this every week for free for people, but that review would make the world a difference. So if you're able to do that, I'll be super, super, super grateful. And hopefully this has been a useful week for you, and I'll speak to you next week. If you've been enjoying what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love Self-Care School. Self-Care School is longer versions of this, more in-depth and more personalised. We have a whole hub of courses from body image to boundaries, perfectionism, time management, and a whole range of other topics. You name it, there's probably a course on it. But most importantly, we also have a weekly group coaching call where you get to apply this stuff to your everyday life and get support to try and untangle your own story from some of the emotions that you might not be enjoying in your life. If you would like to learn how to apply this work to your specific situation and to be building a life of your dreams, I would love to see you inside. Do pop over to selfcareschool.co.uk.